afternoon. I would like to call the first part of this gathering together. The first part is a public hearing. It's our third public hearing, required public hearing, to receive input on the millage rate before we set it, which we will do tonight at a special call meeting immediately after this. If anybody else wanted to speak, make sure Ms. Arlen gets your card right now. I have 4 up here. Anybody else? Okay. We had originally said 2 minutes at last Monday's because we expected a lot more people to speak, and we wanted to give as many people as possible a chance to speak. But since our normal speaking time for public comment at our regular meetings is 3 to 5 minutes, you can have that time frame tonight to speak. I only have 4 cards up here, so that's fine. All right, first I have Jeff Duran.
Brother Brandon knows that 3 to 5 minutes for a preacher really means 30. So,
I appreciate, let me first say I appreciate y'all and what you do and the tough decisions you make. I had really 2 questions, and I think some of it's already been answered. One is, as you can imagine, the inflation right now is through the roof. Families are struggling. They're struggling to make ends meet, and having to make budget cuts as a result of that. What budget cuts have y'all made or looked at, and where can that information be found? So that's my first question.
Okay, Mr. Duran, in a public hearing, we don't answer questions. He might in his superintendent's report when we get to the next part of the meeting, it's just to hear from you, not to engage in dialogue. So.
Oh, okay.
But we can try to answer your questions after.
Didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah.
My second comment is it might be good for y'all, because it's kind of been briefly explained. When I looked at the Open Bay website, it shows that the Truth County school system, according to this website, if you can believe it, is kind of top-heavy with the pay to me, 80 to 90% above the median average. I think if y'all explain that and how it works, that might help people better to understand. Also, right now, our school system, there's 2 schools in Truth County that's a B, rated a B. The rest of them are C, D, or F. My question was going to be, what plans do y'all have to try to improve on that? Because I think people would be more apt to, not fuss so much about having to struggle to make ends meet and pay these property taxes, provided that score comes up. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And I'm not criticizing anybody. I know y'all have to make tough decisions, and I know it's a tough job. And I know a couple of y'all personally, and I know you're good people, and you're trying to do the right thing. But I think, I'm ignorant when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I'm in law enforcement, and I understand people are ignorant of the law, and it has to be explained how things work and operate. But that's the 2 comments I have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shirley Dudley.
I have a problem with each year our taxes have gone up and up for the past 5 years, over $100. I have a problem with my voice. Over $100 each year. And I just can't understand it, since we are supposed to be senior citizens. We don't get a raise like that, but each year we are expected to pay whatever assessed to us, and we can't do it. So if you would look at that and try to see our part, because senior citizens, for me, I can't do a second job, and all I do is get what they give me each month. And that's all I want to say. it really don't help us at all.
Andrew Barrett?
Hi, I'm Andrew Barrett. I live at 1629 Barkley Road. If the school board kept the same millage rate that it's had, I think, since 2005, nearly 20 years, it would take in approximately an additional $7.5 million over last year based on the current property appraisals. I'd like to appeal to the school board here in this public forum. Mr. Brooks said, if you have an idea, then don't assume we on the school board know it. Please share it with us. After doing research, talking with many people, and looking at how other counties and school boards operate, I'd like to put forth this proposal. I ask that the school board lower the millage rate by 2.45 mils, which would put it at 16.4. That would give the Troup County school system approximately the same property tax collections as last year. If I understand correctly, according to Dr. Burt Buckler, there's an undesignated balance of $22.3 million in the general/reserve fund. And I think this would provide an opportunity to bring that fund within the allowed parameters of the Troup County School System Policy Manual and Georgia law, while also giving the most vulnerable citizens a chance to recover from the many financial blows they've received in recent years. We've all been hit by inflation. We've all suffered from the increased cost of food, fuel, supplies, and materials. All I ask is that our school board and school system be in the same boat as nearly all its tax-paying citizens. Let us all be in the same boat so we can row together, school board and citizens, helping one another. And working together, I know we can come out stronger than before. Divided, we'll all suffer, students, taxpayers, and the school system. United, we can achieve nearly anything and create an environment that will help our students thrive. I now ask the school board to lower the millage rate by 2.45 mils. If this was lowered by that rate, it would be 16.40, which would rank approximately 68th out of 159 counties in Georgia. We need to protect our vulnerable citizens, and we need to ensure our students' homes are safe and their parents are able to be there with them. You have the power to do this and are exactly the people to do it. The people of this county have shown faith in you by electing you to this board. Show that their faith was well placed and demonstrate your leadership. I believe in you and that you will do the right thing. Thank you.
And Stephen Will.
Thank you for that. That was very well prepared, very well thought out, and I think very to the mark. A couple of things, all I'd like to ask the board is please, and I'll build a little bit on what I just heard, is trust is everything. And there's a word that goes out there now called a narrative. And a narrative, I've seen it, I lived it, it's in the corporate America, it's in our politics rampantly now. And a narrative is when a partial truth is given, but it creates a lie, because it's not fully transparent. And I used to have to deal with that at work all the time and try to defend it. So as I'm saying, I think I heard it stated very well. I didn't do my homework on the numbers, as the gentleman before me did. However, you know, I heard very clearly that if our property taxes go up, more money comes in. So really, for me, it's pretty simple. How much money do we need to manage the school system? And if property taxes are going up, then we can see how much is coming in, what's the millage rate. Where is that laid out for the citizens very, very well? And it may be there, and it's my not doing my homework, okay? The other one is, in corporate America, in the non-government sector, and I'll use that right now, I'm a little critical of the government right now, is we used to have to generate 3% cost savings a year, every year. And in a leadership position for 18 years, in an organization that was over $200 million a year, I had to deliver that as the leader of those organizations for 18 years straight. We did it. We might hit 2%, we might hit 5%. We didn't want to overachieve, but we always never could underachieve. And I would ask the board to make sure the school system has transparency in where are the ongoing annual cost savings, because we're always going to get inflation. Where are those cost savings and where are they coming from? An example I really liked, when I heard we were building the Clearview Elementary School, one of the major selling points of the school, we were going to shut down Whitesville School, and we were going to save, we were building a more efficient school, shutting down a less efficient school, and we were going to save money on maintenance and energy and other upkeep. And did that occur? Or is the Whitesville School taking our funds, and now we have Clearview as an anchor? And the last thing I'd probably say is the transparency of it all, and I think the gentleman expressed it, and I think this is a conversation that's happening out everywhere, is whatever we can do as a total group to get our test scores up. We don't care about graduation rate. That's happening, that's test scores. That test scores are telling us how the system's doing. And that's what every professional, every person looking in an area to move, I'm telling y'all what you already know. If they don't see the test scores coming up, and they see a Noonan, and they see an Opelika, they move there, what happens to us? Those incomes are going to those, and they're supporting those school systems, and not supporting our school system. So I'll just say, to take my whole talk probably is, no matter what happens tonight, the transparency in how it's presented. If property taxes are going up, we're going to get this much money. Millage rate, can we bring it down? We should. Can't? Okay. But don't, it feels like we're always getting threatened. If we don't do this, millage rate goes up. But the whole story, do we not put it in the whole story when we talk to the press, so we can see it. So, thank you.
Okay, that's the last part that I have. So, are you going to address some of those things as we open the next meeting?
Yes, do that.
Okay. All right, so that brings an end to the public hearing, and now I will call to order this special call meeting of the Board of Education. We have 2 items to take action on tonight, to approve the millage rate and to approve some human resource recommendations as we're trying to get fully staffed before school starts. But first on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. I do appreciate the audience participants for being here yet. Many of you have been here for all 3, which is good for us to hear. And I did a little talk last week during the first 2, just to kind of lay out how the process has worked. Just so that you know, we build a budget based on estimates. We estimate enrollment overall. We estimate the governor's budget based on how it goes through the legislature in the spring. And then we estimate local property taxes, which we never know the final number until June. So you got to, we're required by law to pass a budget before June 30th. Then you have millage rate hearings. So it's kind of backward, meaning that we work from last year's numbers and we try to build a budget on basically current staffing, current class sizes, all those things. And then we get to this point and we're down at the millage rate. Certainly the millage rate can be lowered, and which would cost us money, and then we have to go back and redo our budget. So you can do budget amendments. It's not the end of the world. It has been done. It can be done. That's that. Yes, you're right. The millage rate in this county has been the same for, I think, 18 years, back to 2005. And 18.85 mills, which means $18.85 per $1,000 of, not your overall assessed value, it's 40% of that, your taxable value. So I went through all that last week of how that works. And it's been the same through good times and in bad. 2 years ago, we faced a $7.5 million deficit. Originally, it was $11 million, right after COVID hit. And we cut. And we had to get to a $7.5 million number. We never raised the millage rate. We kept it the same. So your reverse argument could happen. But we didn't do that because we have reserves. And we relied on our reserves during that time, as well as some federal stimulus money. The pandemic cost us a lot of money. We had to go 1-to-1 Chromebooks overnight. We were close already. We had to replace a lot of them, a lot of technology issues, the online learning system, the Canvas platform cost about $800,000. The extended day, the driving food into the neighborhoods, all the things we did in the name of the pandemic just cost a lot of money. Now we're kind of getting back to normal. So I'm going to kind of address several of your good things. What have we done to cut? We cut a bunch of stuff 2 years ago. Last year we were still in that mode, and this year we were able, bringing a few things back, but our class sizes are remaining the same. Teachers are our biggest employee group. We have 700 teachers in this school district. And about 88% of our budget is staffing, right? So if you want to make cuts in the school district, you got to cut staff. And we have been pretty level at the central office level. We kept class sizes relatively, some would say they're high in some cases, but I think they're in pretty good shape, especially the elementary school, which has a big impact on student achievement and teachers' daily lives and all the things. We start letting elementary class sizes go to 30, then we got another problem, right? We stay in the low 20s, then we got a much better workable situation. So there's trade-offs for those kind of staff reductions. As far as your salary websites are, I don't know that website. I'd be glad to look at it. Typically, in my estimation, based on my viewing of the state of Georgia, our salaries are right kind of in the middle of the pack. I've been at other places where there are a lot more than this, but relative to where we live, cost of living in Troup County, it's pretty commensurate with what I see around here. But I'll be glad to look at that. As far as the scores of the schools, those go back to, I think, 2018.
18 or 19.
Yeah, and now, it still is what it is. I'm not running from that. That is our biggest issue now that we're hopefully coming out of this pandemic, and it has been my mantra for the last 6 months. We're going to improve our instructional program and improve testing. But I know how to do it, and we just had a great principals retreat last week. We've got an instructional plan going forward to really line up the state standards, state learning targets, common assessments, all the things we've got to do to get kids ready. And unfortunately, the standardized test scores do matter. You're exactly right, whoever said that. That's how we get viewed. And that's one of the first things people point to when you're spending more money, but you feel like you're not getting any more production. Fair enough. And it's my job, but it's been a little tough when you got 2 years of pandemic going on to really implement a new strategy. And we've been in survival mode. And the only thing I can say is thank goodness we were in school, which took a lot of effort because there were many school districts around the country that did not go to school for a whole year. And their kids are suffering a lot more than ours. At least we were in school, we were able to stave off a little bit of the effects of COVID in terms of mental health and all the other things. But I will say this, my plan is to bring up test scores in the next year. We should see some growth in the next year or two. I think we're already closing gaps on the state from our preliminary data from this spring, the 2022 testing cycle. So those are all things I take very seriously. Don't get them lost on us up here. Everybody talks about inflation. We are a huge consumer of products. Everything we're doing is costing more money. Doesn't matter what it is. Keeping the lights on, buying paper, toner, copier, copy machines, fuel, diesel. Construction is unbelievably more expensive. That's about 40 to 50% more than what we would have paid for we could renovate a restroom that used to cost, 20 or 30,000. Now the prices are 60 or 70,000 for one little, what's relatively small project. You understand what I'm saying? So we feel all the inflation as well, which is part of the need, and we're all fighting for the same dollars. And I understand as homeowners, I told this last week, and it's true. My mother she's 85 years old, lives alone on $2,000 a month. And I'm her power of attorney and all that stuff, and understand how she survives, and what the pinch is on especially senior citizens with very little income other than Social Security. So, and then last week, Kathy talked about all of our property taxes went up as well. We're feeling the same thing in our world. So, with that, we have studied it. We talked to Dr. Burkhardt. We think right now, given the current circumstances, it would be my recommendation that we lower the millage rate by 1 mil from 18.85 to 17.85. There will be about a $2.76 million reduction in funds, and we will do a budget amendment in the next month or so to rectify that. And we can also, and I'm also very cognizant of this, we have open positions all the time. We have 1,900 employees, so you might have, and I'm very careful with, let's don't fill that position and see if we really need it. We try to be prudent with taxpayer dollars to make sure we're managing through. We did the same thing 2 years ago with not rehiring. We had kind of a hiring freeze. I said nobody's going to advertise a job unless it comes on my desk. And if we can get by with 6 custodians versus 7, or 1 less kindergarten teacher when somebody retires, and we condense classes, which also puts a strain on families. But you start messing with teachers in classrooms, that's a whole different story. If we can do it in the operations world, that's a better place to do it. But it's not as easy to absorb a whole lot of money, in some cases, depends on what it is. But please trust we're trying to be prudent in our decision-making, and we appreciate everybody's comments. I think we've been fair, that's all I ever ask for, just be civil and have fair public discourse about a particular topic, and we certainly heard. These folks are here to talk about everything that you've all said, and don't think it goes on deaf ears. With that, Madam Chair, I do recommend that the superintendent, of course, that we discussed by the board and voted on by the board. It's not my decision ultimately, but it would be my recommendation to lower the millage rate by 1 mil to 17.85.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation that we set and adopt the millage rate for 2022 calendar year and going up through next year, this year's budget, lowering it from 18.85 mils to 17.85 mils. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
There's a second. Okay, well, let's have some discussion.
Yeah, and I talked to Brian about this earlier, and I come from a corporate background, people like that. And I'm not used to being able to just get extra money every year. One thing about the millage rate, and the whole problem here is, as we're looking at the millage rate, the county dropped their millage rate by 0.75%. We're talking here 1%. We have I've been on the board 6 years, we have these hearings every year, nobody ever comes. Nobody ever comes to question anything about the millage rate. The reason we did this year is because the valuations went up. We had somebody from the county here told us that the tax revenue was going to increase. And my question was, is that due to new construction or is that revaluations? And they said it was revaluations, and I said that's a problem. So here we are stuck with it's lowering the millage rate. Brian says 1%. We'll have a discussion on that. The problem with that, one of the problems I see with it, is that people whose property did not go up last year, this year, on their evaluation, will get a lower tax bill than they did last year. That pay less than well, the folks whose properties increased, which is obviously most of us in this room, will pay some amount larger. Of course, we dropped the millage rate less than what was originally posted. Brian mentioned this is extremely labor-intensive business. The teachers, all employees, salaries and benefits, and a big cost is one of the more salaries here later, the cost of benefits. Anybody that's in business knows what the cost of benefits does. And that's really where we hit the main motive. If we look at, things are going up. I mean, we see increases too in fuel costs and tires for buses and those kind of things, and inflation is hitting everybody. And it's a bad time to even talk about any kind of increase. On the other hand, it's a matter of how much do we lower the millage rate. Well, a couple things it's going to do. It's going to give us some amount lower than we would if we kept it at 18.85, whatever. When the property values go back down, we will encumber a future board. I made this comment before, that they will probably have to go back up on that millage rate since it was unchanged for 18 years or whatever it was. But that's, somebody else's thing to have to look at. Again, we have 12,000 kids. And you can't defund your school system, but there's a reasonable amount that you could expect that you may have to spend each year in a labor-intensive business. And I made a comment last meeting, we take all students. We don't take just the high achiever. We don't take just the high income. We take them all. We have kids that are homeless. We have kids that about all 12,000 of our kids have somebody that loves them. They would do anything for them. They would die for them. But we have a few that nobody really cares. The care that they give when they come to us. The stability they know is when they come in our classroom. And I can't defund those kids. So at any rate, if I were, and I'm not, you look at the numbers, I know Scott in there someplace, and pick a number, I personally don't feel that 1% is enough to cut it. I'd like to see 1.5, that's just a number I pulled out here. Just looking at the numbers and what it would cost to our, what that bottom line is, because that still gives us more money than we had last year. But there's a lot of unknowns out there, what's going to happen. This is going to, this market value of homes is going to adjust at some point. I mean, if we're really realistic with ourselves, it's not going to keep going up. So we've got to keep that in mind of what happens with that, and try to do the right things about the people, about the taxpayers, about the kids, and how we do that. We're faced with that. We're tasked with that job. It's our job to try to make the right adjustments, to try to run an efficient school system, and to try to get the scores up, and to try to do right by the people's money. And that's really where we're at. And part of my battle cry when I run for the school board was cut fat and cut the consultants. When you get in here and really see what's going on, you realize you cut fat, you cut people. That's where you got to cut. That's 87% of your budget is people. So, and of course, salaries and benefits and teachers' retirement, all that's paid out of current revenue. It's not like there's a bunch of banks. Anyway, rambling on, but it's. Brian, I didn't talk about this, but I'd rather see 1.5% versus 1%. I mean, it's just board decision, but I would make that proposal.
What is our deadline to vote on this? On the
I thought it was tonight.
is it?
I don't know that there's a set in stone deadline.
I don't know.
Regular deal?
I don't know that I know of a hard deadline. I do know the tax bills need to go out. And that the tax commissioner is looking for this decision as soon as possible. Certainly we started the fiscal year. That started on July 1st. We don't presently have a budget that is 100% done. We are using a projected budget, and it's not that in the world, as Dr. Shingley would indicate, but we are into the new fiscal year. There is a board commissioner. They need to ratify or approve whatever the appropriate language is. So there's certainly that process that would add to the but I do know the tax bills need to go out. That tax commissioner's office have to collect taxes to run the county government, to run schools. So, that I don't envision you have a lot of time if you really have any. I hope that answers your question, but that's my best.
Yeah, it's a good answer. And I've talked to Shane Fraley about that. Tax bills need to be credited and go somewhere. But in a way,
Well, I'd like to try to come to some conclusion tonight. I'm sorry that we're missing a couple of people. I knew about Mr. Blair. He's out of town, and I do have some of his thoughts on the matter that he said he would be willing for me to share. And then I'll be happy to share where I stand. If anybody sitting out there has said this board is don't come up and do what they've already decided to do and it's a done deal, you can see that that's not the case, because we're kind of all over the place up here tonight. We have not colluded and planned what was going to happen tonight. So I think Mr. Blair was perhaps resistant to lowering it. He did some research and he said that he could not find another year where real estate prices and consumer goods skyrocketed in the same year. And that's where our sympathy comes from. As I mentioned last week, I did do some opening comments that I didn't do tonight. And he says it here, we're in a unique situation. We did not expect the large increase in the digest being primarily attributed to existing landowners. And I shared my numbers last week, which were shocking to me. And fortunately, I'm blessed I can pay those taxes. But there was a time in my life when I couldn't, and that would have sent me into a panic. Also, he points out that working on our budget, we knew that increased mandates from the government and inflation, our budget had to increase. I don't really know how a budget in this day and age can stay the exact same from year to year. We have more students, we grow, we have more facilities to keep up, and we need to develop more rooftops in this county so that the tax base grows. But then again, when that happens, you have to build another school to handle all those new people. So it's very dangerous for us to say, we can live on what we lived on last year. I don't think we can.
Y'all do.
That's right.
We do.
Ma'am and sir, I haven't even stated where I stand yet, okay? Please let me talk. We let you talk uninterrupted. I'm just voicing some thoughts. We are sensitive to the difficult times. We do want to help out. I have not told my people up here this yet, but I'm prepared to vote for one millage rate, 1 point rollback. I'm a little wary of going higher than that. So far we've heard Mr. Brooks made a motion for the 1 mill. I can live with the 1 mill. Joe wants more than that. Farrell wanted less than that. So, ladies, you have anything to add?
I would tend toward that, to what Joe said.
One other thing,
Also, Joe,
Madam Chair, the other thing is, and I hope people do that, there is a process to appeal your property valuation. It's a little bit intimidating, but depending on how many people appeal that, if the county changes that assessment, that lowers your property bill, and it also lowers the amount that we get in revenue. So I hope people are willing to do that. It's a little bit of an intimidating process, but hopefully a lot of people will do that and get that valuation lowered.
And we don't know how that will affect us either. I know
We don't know the impact of that.
I know the assessors are taking care of people as best they can. I've heard several reports, so again, that's an unknown factor.
We've never seen this kind of issue.
No, this is like a perfect storm of craziness.
And so my point is that we don't know the impact of that.
No.
Because those valuations are changing.
That's right, that's right. As you know, we reported at recent, well, if people would come to school board meetings, they would know that part of our budget for next year is we want to put resource officers in every classroom, every school, sorry, every school. We have them at the secondary schools right now, the middle and high schools, but we want to put one at every elementary school. You know, everybody gets interested in safety and security after another tragedy, and we've been very proactive about safety and security. But that's a big chunk in our new budget, a big expense that we didn't necessarily know that we were going to want to do, but now we want to do it. So it's a matter of, you know, how do we put in place the things that we want to put in place to take care of our employees and also be sensitive to the needs of the public. And fortunately, we have a reserve. We've taken heat for that too, having too much money in the reserve. Well, it's not illegal, as some people have tried to say, to have X amount of money in the reserve, but it's certainly frowned upon to have more than a certain amount in the reserve. But you want a healthy reserve, which right now we do have, so you can get through rainy days like this. And so rather than change our budget big time, we might just have to rely on those reserves to get us through this. But as Joe said, if the economy goes through another crazy swing, we'll have to look at this all over again. So.
Madam Chair, I'm listening and certainly sensitive to it. If it's the will of the board to 1.5, we will work through it. And, you know, we might have to make some cuts, special cuts. Sunrise School gets ready to start even after school, not filling positions and adjust potentially some services, but it's, I certainly support the board in whatever you want to do.
Okay. We have not had a second on the first motion for 1 mill, unless I can do that. I don't know if I can do that or not. Okay, so there's no second, so that motion will not carry. So we have an alternate motion.
Yes, I propose 1.5 mil decrease.
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
Who made the second? I apologize.
All those in favor? I'm sorry, any further discussion?
As far as, I know a key point right now is school safety. Whether that is metal detectors, whether that is SROs. want us to be careful. Would it be more prudent for us if we have to meet again tomorrow, or to make sure that those things are going to, that we're going to be able to do those things? Because I think that is a key point in the public, and one that I'm concerned with as well. And again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you answer that?
I think we can, and unfortunately, I see former educators in here. I've been in this business 35 years, and I've watched it evolve. We have, every time somebody wants to talk about society's ills, they want to ask the school district to help, right, to do something about that. We have added services, I'm talking about 35 years worth, one thing after another, that schools used to not have to deal with because of whatever family reasons or what you name it that's going on in society. We now have nurses in every school. They didn't have that when I was growing up. We have social workers in our schools that we didn't have those. We have bus monitors that we didn't have those. You know what I'm saying? 11 SROs is going to be about $700,000 a year if we go down that road, and we certainly want to consider it. I think we're ready. The answer is yes, we can do it. We'll have to make cuts in other places. But those are services that have to be traded off. And school safety probably should be it is our number one priority, right? So you have to make that a high priority and see where else we can make cuts. And I don't want to diminish school safety, even though it's on the docket to be voted on in the next month or so, because of this. And the other thing folks have to realize is when Joe touched on it, we touched on several of the things that I was just talking about, which is we do have a lot of kids with a lot of needs that we have to tend to. Some kids are very expensive, much more expensive to educate than a kid with very stable households and so forth. If the property taxes or property rates go back down, I think the board should consider raising the rate back to where it was. If that's kind of the watermark, then maybe we can survive for a few years at whatever rate the board chooses tonight. I don't know. We still know what that future looks like. But certainly be flexible when the time comes around, and it may very well in the next few years. The answer, I think we do know that.
We use initials a lot. SRO, when I realize is a
School resource officer.
It's
a sworn police officer.
And it's one police officer in the classroom, and I think that's something we have to do. The child in our school system is the most precious thing to the parents and grandparents, and that's one of the things we just got to do. Right? And we talk about spending money, but one of the things we have done is each classroom has cameras in it. Unlike the situation in Texas, if there was a situation where there was someone in the classroom, we know exactly where they are and exactly what they're doing because we got full surveillance of that.
Anyone else? Well, we do have a motion and a second, so we need to vote on that motion. I'm going to, as part of the discussion, I'm going to make the statement that it looks like that motion is going to carry. I'm going to vote no, not because I don't believe in rolling back millage rate, but I think I would feel better at rolling it back 1%. But I just want to be clear that I'm in favor of rolling it back. I'm just a little nervous about that number. So, all right, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Opposed?
That passes with 4.
Yeah, that's 4. So, give me I'm not good at fraction decimal points. So we're settling on 17.35. Okay. I'm an English teacher, y'all. I don't do decimal points. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item, we need to approve the human resource recommendations as presented to you here on this document.
So I would recommend the board approve the human resources recommendations as presented.
Another second to look at that.
So no change in what it was.
The 2 principles are on there.
Yes, sir. No changes from what was posted yesterday.
Okay, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation that we approve the human resource recommendations as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I'd like to, why don't we go ahead, we were going to invite the principals to come next. Our regular board meetings are in 2 weeks, where there's, we do, and I think we're going to bring it all back for recognition that particular night. We should be fully staffed with principals now, and I'd like to invite, real quick, Jamie Bozeman to come up. He's going to be the new principal. Come on, you didn't think you were going to speak, did you? You got your title on. And a principal should be able to speak anytime. But Jamie competed has been a long time, I think 22-year employee of LaGrange, and as a teacher and assistant principal, so welcome. And if you have a few words with the board.
I appreciate it. Again, a lot of others you may said, I just finished my 22nd year in education. I've spent all of 22 here in Shrewsbury County at LaGrange High School. Started off in 2000 as a teacher/coach, moved up and I've been assistant principal for the last 6 years, and then now fortunate enough to take over leadership role at LaGrange High School, and looking forward to serving our community, LaGrange High School parents and students, our students in general, and our staff there. So thank you for affording me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Bozeman.
I'd like to invite up Melanie Bastine. Melanie's being appointed as the new principal of Callaway Elementary. Now, we're going to have you all come back in 2 weeks, by the way. So Melanie comes from Muskogee County, and you want to tell a little bit about yourself, Melanie?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Schubert, to this Board of Educators. I am so excited to be joining the Shrewsbury County Board School District. I come from Muskogee County with, I just finished my 15th year in education, elementary teacher, served as an instructional coach and assistant principal for the last 7 years. I am so excited to become a part of the Callaway Elementary School Bulldog family. Just ready to get here, work hard, serve our students and our community. I'm ready to get to know everyone, and this district has been so gracious and just welcoming to me, so I know it's going to be a great experience, so thank you.
Thank you, welcome.
And Mr. Ellis, are you ready to speak?
Oh.
This is Jay Ellis. He's named the assistant principal at Callaway Elementary School. Jay was our gifted coordinator.
Yeah, I joined Shrewsbury County in 2017, and I've got over 20 years of experience in education. I am currently working as a gifted facilitator and intervention specialist here at ASC, but I'll be joining Melanie in Callaway Elementary School, so we're excited for the opportunity to really get in and dig our heels in. I reside in Shrewsbury County, actually in Callaway's own, and so I feel already part of the community, and this just further solidifies that. So I appreciate this board's opportunity and the community's backing behind us.
You are having a meet and greet next Wednesday
Yes.
at 10 o'clock?
No, it's at
12:30 now?
12:30.
Sorry, you did right. I don't want to, 12:30 in the auditorium cafeteria?
In the media center.
Media center. So there'll be a meet and greet to meet the two new administrators at Callaway Elementary next Wednesday. Obviously spread the word, we want parents and staff to show up at 12:30. Madam Chair, that is all I have. I appreciate it.
There being no further business, we stand adjourned.